You're locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Rebelpreneur Radio. I am your host, Ralph Brogden, where my passion and my goal is to bring you the world's best success strategies to help you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I am joined today by Penny Zenker. She is an international speaker. She is a trainer and a best-selling author. Her passion is helping people to live more fulfilling lives by changing your relationship with time, money, and meaning in your life. Penny's experience includes building and selling a multi-million-dollar business. She has managed business turnarounds. She's lived abroad for 16 years, and she has worked with business leaders around the world as a top strategic business coach. She's associated with Business Breakthroughs, which is a Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes company, and Penny will challenge you to think and act more strategically. And that's what I'm all about, is strategy, because the strategy is where the leverage is. So, Penny, it is a real pleasure to have you. Welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thanks for having me, Ralph. It's great to be here.
Well, I love the fact that you are strategically focused and that you help others to think and act more strategically, because so many people are focused on the tactical aspects of their business, the tactical aspects of the things they got to do on a day-to-day basis. But people like you and me, we tend to take a step back, look at the big picture, and think more strategically. And one of my pet peeves is that people really don't define what strategy is. So the first thing I'd like to do is to get your thoughts on, help us to understand the difference between strategic thinking and tactical thinking.
Well, it's a good question, because you're right. A lot of people have different definitions. When I talk about strategic thinking, it's thinking about your goals and your actions and having them aligned, right? So it can be short term, but it is usually more long-term, right? Thinking about what is the most important thing to do that's going to, as you said, use the word leverage earlier, that's going to help you to create leverage. And, so in its simplicity, for me, it's being able to, understand where you want to bring your business, so, and how you're going to do that in a bigger picture type of way.
So it's taking a step back from the day-to-day grind, the almost minute-by-minute reaction to all of these things happening. And then at the end of the day, you realize I put out all of these fires, but I didn't get one step closer to any of the goals that I set long-term for my business. And I'm not having fun. So I'm not achieving my life's purpose, but then I'm going to come back at work tomorrow, and it's going to be another exercise in reacting to crises.
Yeah, you just used the word that I was going to use. It's a reactionary way of being versus, proactively driving things to where you want them to go. I know that a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurs. Some may be new into starting their own business, and some may be being in it for longer. But wearing so many different hats might also tend people to be more tactical in thinking. What's the task that I have to do? And we live in kind of a state right now of busy. Everybody's busy. It's like a learned helplessness. And it's the worst state that we can be in, because it forces us to get caught up and to get stuck in those transactions, in those, minute by minute reactions, versus having that perspective of, what's the most important thing for me to do and really focus on that. And if some of the other things don't get done, it might not matter. It might not have an impact.
That's interesting. And especially for people, I'm calling them rebelpreneurs. A lot of them are solopreneurs. They don't have a big staff. They don't have a team, where it's like, okay, team, let's attach this problem. And I'm going to sit back here and look at things from this upper strategic level and just kind of give the big eye perspective on everything. Individual people, solopreneurs, don't have the human resources. So they are stuck. And if it's got to be done, it's got to be me who does it. And so how do you carve out space for yourself so that you don't just go through the tactical reactions of what a lot of people can get caught up in?
Well, I think we get caught up, and I say we because I've been there, right? Mm-hmm. And I still from time to time fall into that helplessness, that state of victimhood is, I'm the only one who can do it. I don't have the resources, so forth. And so it's a story that we keep telling ourselves. And so if that's you, whoever's listening, some of the things that get us caught up in that we can be aware of is the sense of urgency that we create around everything. It's the entrepreneur's gift and curse. It's that we have this sense, and I know because I have it too. It's like, I want to be the best customer, responder. And if they have a question, I want to be the one who's answering it and so forth. But we create everything at the same level of urgency. And it then creates a gap in our perspective. So the first thing we need to do is really to step back from all these urgencies and to really ask ourselves, is this really urgent? Does this really need to be done now? Does it really need to be done by me? Because there are resources that we entrepreneurs can reach out to that are free or inexpensive. So, we could get an intern to support us so that could do some of the, little things that do need to get done, but don't necessarily need to be done by us, right? We could barter with other people so that, we need a service and they need a service, and that'll help us to outsource something that we're not good at, or it takes us a long time to do because it's not our genius. So I think we sometimes just need to get out of our story in order to give ourselves permission to find new solutions. I like to have people kind of say, like, even though I don't have the money to outsource, I still can do something else. And that sort of gives us a way in to recognize and appreciate that we may be limited in one resource, but we are unlimited in the creativeness that we can bring to any situation. So we need to tap into that more.
I really like that. Now, your business is P10 app.
That's my, my program. It's called the Productivity Accelerator. And so P10 is the name of the application.
Excellent. Now what does the P10 stand for?
Well, the P10 stands for, P is for productivity, and the 10 is for the 10 core drivers of our productivity that help us to think and act more strategically, get away from time management and focus on productivity.
I love Stephen Covey talking about the difference between being effective at what we do as opposed to being efficient. And he started out with some time management principles, and he expanded upon them to help us to see the difference between what is urgent and what is important, and the things that are not urgent and not important, and to kind of strategically plan our day around those things. How have you expanded upon that and brought it up to date? Because Covey's work was, I remember reading his work 25 years ago. What's changed in the meantime?
It's still relevant. So I want to, that it's still the Eisenhower Matrix, right? That's been around before Covey. So to really focus on what's important. One of the ways that I present it, to have people look at it in a different way, because sometimes it's seeing things in different ways that help to open up new ideas. I have a framework, which is a bell curve. It looks like a bell curve. It's not the standard deviation. And the axes are efficiency and effectiveness. So when we're in the productivity zone, we're both efficient and effective, because that's our goal when we want to be productive. That's my definition, so that we can work from something common. And when we're not in the zone, we're either over-functioning or under-functioning. And I call that procrastination or perfectionism.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it? We get stuck there from time to time.
Yeah, that sounds almost too familiar. Have you been reading my mail?
So talking about that importance, that when we're not focused on what's important, right, then we can get stuck in perfectionism or in procrastination, that over and under functioning when we're stuck in urgency or lacking thereof.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now, you are you are an international speaker, so you talk about this stuff. You're a trainer, and you're a strategic business coach. So this is where you live. How long have you been doing this for yourself? And tell our listeners what you were doing before.
Sure. Well, I've been, a speaker and coach for almost 10 years now. And before that, I had started my own technology business. So, that's why I say also I've been in the trenches. I mean, in some aspects, I still am, right? Because we're always reinventing ourselves and taking ourselves to the next level. But before I was a speaker and coach, I started a technology business, and that's when I built it up from just me to a multi-million-dollar business, and was really fortunate enough to sell it to a public company.
Wow!
So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Now, what made you decide to get out of the working in the business and transition into helping other business owners get their business to where they want it to be?
Well, a couple of different reasons. One of them was I was killing myself. I was working, 24 hours a day in some cases. And, I hadn't gotten the memo yet. And I thought, it'd be a lot easier if I just sell this business, because of the way that I built it, I was still intertwined and couldn't let go of some of those hats because I needed to be in control. And I wasn't mature enough to figure out a way to stop, being in sales or being in marketing or, having my hands in everything. So, and it was just an ideal time with where technology was, that, I could see that as bigger companies were getting the opportunities, and my company was still at a size where if I wanted to bring it to the next level, it would be easier to partner with another company. So, so that was really the impetus. But part of it was I just was getting burnt out, and I felt like I wanted a 9-to-5 job, which, funny enough, totally did not turn into a 9-to-5 job. It was like way more complicated than having my own business. And I was like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Boy, that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is like, I would work less if I worked for myself. And then, you have one of those 24-hour marathons and you think, wow, I need to get a job so I can rest.
That's right. At least it's mine, right? It's mine.
Yeah. What was the biggest thing holding you back in the beginning? That's quite a transition to go from a thriving business that's making you money, and then you're kind of launching out into this world of strategic business coaching and speaking and training and writing. What was the biggest thing holding you back in the beginning, or what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome?
Well, one of them was my relationship with time. And understanding, getting more of that strategic perspective. I think that I somewhat had that in the beginning when I started my business, but it really came to a hold when I started this other company, and I was hired as the chief technology officer of this organization that I thought I was getting into an easy situation. And the company, before I started, brought me into a task force, and they reorganized everything. And I took my boss's job, and now I was responsible for a holding company, responsible for 5 companies in 3 different countries and speaking in a foreign language because I was living in Zurich, Switzerland at the time. And I was very quickly way overwhelmed. I wasn't sure that I had, the skills that were necessary to do this job, and went into my boss's office and I said, listen, I don't think this is going to be right for me. And he said something that shifted my perspective. And I believe from that day forward is that I became more strategic in my thinking. And he said, Penny, I hired you to make decisions. And what you do with the rest of your time is up to you. Right?
Wow.
At the time, I thought, oh, easy for you to say. But as it sunk in, that was probably one of the wisest, nuggets that I could have gotten to shift the way that I think about things and to take me out of the weeds and have me, for the rest of my life, always taking a step back and looking at perspective.
Wow. Boy, that is so powerful. Just that one statement really captures the essence of what it means to think strategically, to act strategically. It's about making decisions, not necessarily, and sometimes it is about the execution. But you can have execution, but if it's based on the wrong strategy, then you're just going to get to where you don't want to be faster.
Right, exactly. I think Stephen Covey said that too. You put your ladder up the wrong wall, right?
Yeah. So you could be really efficient at getting things done, but if you're doing the wrong things, then it's really not helping. It's doing more harm than good. Wow, what a powerful statement that is. Tell me, because you are a person who has been under the influence of Tony Robbins, which is a very powerful influence. And so you're a strategic business coach through that program. Tell us a little bit about what you do to stay motivated on a daily basis. What is your success ritual?
Well, I one of the things I hear a lot of people talking about their morning rituals, right, and what they do in the morning. And I absolutely believe in everything that people say, the hour of power or whatever. The key things that I do, and I also want to be more clear on what I don't do. But I try to start every morning and end every day with gratitude. That to me is absolutely, it changes everything. It's, I did a TED Talk, a TEDx a few months ago, and I called it the energy of thought. And I believe that when we can focus on gratitude and intertwine that in our thought process, that everything we think about is different, and the energy that we bring to our day and to others is different. And so that for me is probably the most important thing.
Now, how do you do that? What does that look like when you go through this exercise?
Well, there's a couple different ways I do it. I have a journal. So every day I write in my journal about the things that I'm grateful for. At the end of the day, the things that I experienced, and in the beginning of the day, what I'm looking forward to, what I'm grateful for to get up and to be able to hear music, to hear the birds. Sometimes it's, I hear them through my window and that inspires me. And this practice of journaling came to me actually during the lowest point in my life was when I was going through a divorce process. And I had very little that I could focus on that I felt like I was grateful for. But the more you think about it, the more things you can feel grateful for. So in the beginning, it was really hard. And I was really struggling about, okay, the sun is shining and I love the sun on my face. I have children, so I could focus on the smiles of my children. But the more I did it, the more things I found that I could be grateful for. And that totally shifted that period of my life. What could have been very difficult made it a much smoother. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, but it made it easier than it could have. And so that's when I started that process, and I've been doing it ever since.
That is so important. I actually do a version of that myself, is the reason I ask. And I was speaking with a client the other day and trying to get them into this idea of gratitude. And he said, well, I don't go for all that positive thinking. I don't see how positive thinking is going to change any of my circumstances. I said, listen, it's not about changing your circumstances. Positive thinking is about changing yourself. And
it's changing the way you look at your circumstances.
Exactly. If you will change yourself, then you are the one that's going to change your circumstances. But positive thinking and confession and all of that by themselves, we can't use those tools to change other people, to change circumstances. We use them to change ourselves. And if we change ourselves, then our approach, which is another word for strategy, our approach to people, our approach to circumstances, our approach to problems begins to change. And I think a light bulb went off, and it can kind of like the time where your boss said, I hired you to make decisions. Yeah. Light bulb goes off, and here's a new distinction that now you can go and apply. So that's really cool. And I hear more and more people talking about the power of gratitude and consciously taking time out. It's pretty powerful, and at least in our country, once a year, you sit around Thanksgiving table and you kind of think about what you're thankful for. But gratitude is something we should practice. If it's powerful once a year, why not try it a couple times a day? I think it would be life-changing.
Absolutely. I do it with my children at dinner time or before bed. I really try to integrate it. And I when I'm working with a group at a workshop or doing a large group event, I have a way for people to experience the difference, and they really get it after that. At many companies who have then implemented a gratitude process in the morning when they do their kickoff meetings.
Wow. It's so powerful. And even in the typical communication between the manager and the employee, if you just work this principle into the communication of beginning by focusing on what you're thankful for in terms of what the employee is doing well, how they're achieving things, and instead of always focusing on, well, here's the areas that we need to improve upon, and it's just negative and saps the strength. So excellent. That's a terrific idea for keeping us motivated, especially in a business, because it can be kind of tough on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and you spoke about, just another quick resource for people is I do a 5-minute gratitude visualization that actually Tony Robbins does. It's free on his website. He calls it a primer. There's a 15-minute one, and then there's a 5-minute one around gratitude, and it's fantastic. So I highly recommend that people look at that as well.
Excellent. So you are a busy person with your coaching, speaking.
Not busy.
You're not busy?
No. Oh, I'm productive.
You're productive.
But I'm not busy. I choose everything that I do.
Well, perfect. Well, tell me a little bit about what you have chosen to do in terms of your latest program or whatever it is that you're working on that's got you really excited.
Excited. Well, I am super excited that I took the concepts, the 10 P10, that's where it came from, the 10 core drivers of productivity. And again, these are drivers not just for productivity of success. Productivity is a byproduct of thinking and acting more strategically. So these 10 drivers, I put them into a software product so that I can help people who may not be able to work with me directly or need a little help. Maybe they don't have the funding to have a coach themselves, but would love to have like an online type of coach. So it's an assessment where they can take it once and get a baseline and then continue to come back to it to condition themselves on these 10 drivers. And I'm looking to bring 1 million people onto this platform in the next 3 years. So I'm super excited about, getting the word out and supporting people in their process of taking their business and their life to the next level.
That sounds really, really intriguing. How can our listeners take advantage of that and go check out those 10 drivers of success in productivity?
Well, they can either grab a copy of my book, The Productivity Zone, Stop the Tug of War with Time. It's available on Amazon, and that goes through the 10 drivers, or they can go to my website, www.p10app, and the 10 is the number 10, app.com. And on there, there's a description, of the program, especially I think there's a tab for assessment, and that'll describe in more detail the assessment and how that could benefit them.
Perfect. So our listeners should go to P10 app, that's P, the number 10, app.com, and take that assessment and find out more about that program and about your book and other things that you have going on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So this has been really inspiring. I love discussing strategy. There's lots of tacticians, but very few strategic thinkers. And so it's been a real pleasure to have you on the program. Before we close, I'm wondering if there is any advice or words of wisdom that you would like to share with someone who's listening who wants to start or grow their business. And I don't want to be cliche and say take it to the next level, but to help them achieve more out of their life and more out of their business. What is a word of wisdom that you would impart to them?
There's so many different things that I'd love to say. I would say, just coming back to the strategy aspect of maintaining perspective, I would say that they should take an hour or two, as much time as they can, but I appreciate that might be limited, at the end of every week, and schedule it into the calendar and go somewhere outside of the office and use that time to reflect on what they did in the past week and what they're going to do in the next week to align what their goals and their tasks are. Kind of, take a sheet of paper and split it in half and say, here's what I'm doing today, meaning this week, and here's what I need to be doing in order to achieve my goals, on the other half of the paper, and kind of see where the gaps are and start closing those gaps.
Excellent. I like the idea of being able to plan on the front and back of one piece of paper. That keeps it simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. Totally possible.
Perfect. Well, Penny Zenker, it's been wonderful to have you. Penny is an international speaker, a trainer, and a best-selling author. She's not busy. She is productive. And she will challenge you to think and act more strategically as well. Check her out and check out her book and her program at p10app.com. Penny, it's so wonderful to have spent some time with you. Thank you so much for being on today's program.
Thanks for having me, Ralph. Take care.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at ralphbrogden.com.